Tilea's Troubles, Part 64. Shooting at the Butts. The End of Spring, 2403. Terenne, part of the city-state of Varezzo. At Pollena, the largest settlement in Terenne, that part of the city-state of Varezzo almost wholly inhabited by halflings, the afternoon was as pleasant as could be expected. 3 regulars were enjoying the sun outside the Hairy Hog alehouse, supping the best the landlord had to offer. In many ways, for them, this was no different to any other afternoon, except that they were dressed in blue and yellow livery and had a very important visitor. Pablo was drinking deep, so that ale ran down his chin. "Best not overdo it," suggested Tino. "We have to put on a good show." Pablo, who heard him, continued to gulp down his ale, while Benetto, who was clearly not listening, stared absently at what was happening on the green. Tino watched with raised eyebrows until Pablo drained his tankard, then brought it down to rest before his belly. After wiping his chin with the back of his hand, Pablo hiccuped, then gave a silly smile. Tino's brow furrowed, which made Pablo smile all the more, and he threw in a chuckle for good measure. "I heard you," Pablo said. Before Tino could give vent to the inevitable complaint, "I just think my shooting's better with a bellyful. Steadies my aim, see?" "Makes you care less about your aim, you mean," said Tino. "You're lucky Lord Lucha is twice your height, otherwise he'd smell the ale on your breath." "But all soldiers drink before battle." "Ha! This ain't battle. This is us showing our lord what we can do." The silly smile reappeared on Pablo's face. "All's well and good then, 'cause drinking's what I do best," he said. The word battle had jolted Benetto out of his dreamy haze. His brow furrowed. "You think we really will have to fight?" he asked. "Radraf's fallen, so it's likely we're next," explained Tino. "Boulderguts has ravaged his way through Tilea. Why would he suddenly choose to stop, unless someone makes him do so?" "But no one has stopped him. Neither Pavonans nor Remans, and not for want of trying." "That they have not," agreed Tino somberly. "But they must have hurt him." "How can you know that?" demanded Benetto. "I know because he didn't try to take the city of Remas, where the gold is piled high. And they say he passed through Frascotti in such a hurry that his brutes took barely anything from it." "But they didn't rush by Radrafa, did they?" argued Benetto. "They bashed everyone's heads in and took all they could, which is a lot." "Radrafa isn't Varezzo," said Tino. "We have an army. They only had some militia and a handful of mercenaries." "Oh, aye, we have an army that includes us. Great," said Benetto. He plucked an arrow from his quiver and laid it on the table. "Will our shafts even pierce the brute's flesh? Will they go deep enough for them to notice?" "We'll just have to see, won't we? The only alternatives are to run away from our homes or wait to be served up as meaty morsels on platters." The 3 of them fell silent for a moment. Then Pablo piped up. "Best have another ale, then, while we can." Upon the green before them, a company of archers were already letting loose at the butts. They too were liveried, apart from the hunter, Roberto Capuccio, known more commonly as the Petit Rosso, who always favoured green despite his nickname. Their weapons looked like longbows would in a man's hand, yet they were no longer than what men considered ordinary bows. Every fellow present had practised regularly since youth, honing his skill and strengthening the necessary muscles, more so on one side of his body than the other. They could match the range and punch of a human bow, but they hit the mark more frequently, and they could generally shoot for longer, provided there was some nourishment to hand to keep their spirits up. And they were just as well practised at ensuring there was always food to hand. The village constable, Giusto Carumo, was also watching the practice, his 2 brothers by his side, his big baton resting on his shoulder. His youngest brother, Osvaldo Grasso, was eating a chicken leg, which was not a surprise as he was nearly always eating. It was Giusto's responsibility to muster the militia, though not to lead them in war. He was the stepping stone that took the able-bodied from the world of peace to the field of battle. Or, more accurately, he was the short-tempered, foul-mouthed, club-bearing elder who roused them, rounded them up, and presented them to the military officers, then washed his hands of them. For many a year he had rallied a rabble of lads for their biannual drills, with no shortage of cruel jests to shame them into activity.
This morning, however, his tone had been just different enough that nearly every presumptive warrior realised that this was something different, and not just because the muster was earlier in the season than usual. The constable had rushed like never before, he and his brothers rousing every eligible soldier from all the villages and hamlets in less than 4 hours, which was no mean feat for a fellow as stout as he, especially when garbed in an iron breastplate to enhance his military countenance. The lads were right to be suspicious, for this was no mere holiday drill, this was the real thing. Their lord, Conte Lucha Vespucci of Verezzo, had summoned them to make ready for war. Lord Lucha had arrived at noon, just as many of the gathered archers were beginning to hope that the muster was some sort of mistake. He had immediately asked that the several companies demonstrate what they could do. He had only a small company of guards with him, which included some of the halflings who attended upon him in his Verezan palazzo. The Conte was in no haste to witness their drill, but rather wanted to see their shooting skills first. So began an archery tournament lasting the afternoon, which the Conte observed intently. One rank at a time, the halflings came before him, planted their shafts in the ground, then began loosing them at the butts. This would go on until Lord Lucha cried, "Enough! Well done! Bring the next!" Then a gaggle of younglings would pluck arrows from the butts while the archers marched away, and another rank took their place. Lord Lucha was a natural philosopher and a meticulous organiser of his realm's affairs, who took great care over matters of trade, finance and agriculture, studiously acquiring the knowledge he needed to keep his realm prosperous and safe. Here he showed the same attention to detail. As the afternoon lengthened, it became clear he intended to witness the skill of each and every archer, to see for himself whether, to a lad, they could be relied upon. As time wore on, he seemed to relax somewhat, for rank after rank showed impressive consistency in their aim, peppering the target centres with ever more holes, while leaving the periphery virtually unblemished. All was done in a leisurely, sedate manner, like a lazy game of stool-ball on a late summer's afternoon, until almost everyone was thinking of the fine evening that must naturally follow this sport, with a pleasant pipe or two and a pot or three of ale. But the slow pace was due to Lord Lucha's usual thoroughness, rather than any lack of urgency, and as the last company was dismissed, looking forward to their first drink of the evening, he turned to the attending captains and ordered that the whole militia now assemble. He was now ready to inspect their brigade drill. Within a quarter of an hour, the halfling militia had drawn themselves up into 2 bodies. Usually they would form up 4 ranks deep, but here they doubled their frontage to better fill the space available. Each company had its own colour, one called the red and the other the blue, as indicated by their flag's edgings. Lord Lucha was joined by Barone Jacopo Brunetti, the Lord of Poliena. The Barone would have cut quite a dash, cloaked and clad in armour upon his stout pony, if it were not for the Conte's contrasting bulk. Still, Jacopo's pony bucked and reared as if keen for a fight, and he brandished his sword while delivering commands for the 2 company captains to repeat. Once their manoeuvres were done, having wheeled, inclined and countermarched to demonstrate the continued neatness of their dressings, they halted. The Conte, apparently at last satisfied, now ordered them to stand, while some of his own little company of guards came up to stand behind him, and began a short speech. "You all know why you have been called forth this day. Indeed, all Tilea knows of the evils that beset our land, how so many other city-states have suffered indignities at the least, and destruction at the worst. That will not happen to our dear Verezzo, for you and I will not allow it. Today you have proved yourselves more than fit for any fight ahead. To a soldier, for that is what you are now, you shoot well, and as a body you are as expertly drilled as any mercenary, even any palazzo guard. Long practice has made you this way, and all that effort was done for this day. This e'en, first sharpen your arrowheads and fix your flights, hone your blades and look to all the trappings you need for war. Make these things as fit for battle as you yourselves have proven today to be. Whether brutes come, or the unliving foe, or both, we shall be ready for them. They shall learn that what is ours cannot be taken from us, and that we will not allow those we love to be harmed.
The men of Arezzo and Spumante, and the halflings of Terenne will stand strong together, each being the best I could hope for, each complementing the other to forge a fighting force of courage and skill. Myrmidia has watched us today, and she will be pleased. Tonight, when every edge is as sharp as a razor, every bow waxed, and all your armour oiled, say a quiet prayer to dedicate yourselves to her, and ask her to guide both you, your captains, and myself in the days and weeks to come. Then fill your flagons and drink a health in her honour." "Evviva!" came the cheer, again and again, as the two portobandieri flourished the colours aloft.